So I've been thinking about this issue some more as far as getting downhill. And obviously it's a little bit of a balance, right? Because if you all you do is think about keeping your shoulders square and staying in stacked, a lot of guys just end up losing that hinge in the back leg, and it just becomes, you're basically trading the hinge and staying too far back and getting uphill for no longer having a hinge, and just kind of coasting through the back leg, but staying stacked. So there's an ideal blend of both. Can we stay relatively stacked while still getting in the hinge as you move forward? So for me, obviously I can't really throw right now, besides like kind of arm action drills because of my hip, but something that I noticed, a way of thinking about it. So I'll just pretend I'm throwing here. When I'm doing like my 10 toes throws, if I try to keep stacked over my back hip and keep it a backside driven movement, then it kind of looks like this, where I'm trying to stay back, and from here, it's hard to get downhill because my weight is over that back hip. So, it's still fairly efficient, but at landing, I'm uphill. Now, if I shift that focus from trying to keep centered over my back hip to trying to keep centered over my front hip, then watch what happens. So I go through the drill. Now I'm centered over the front hip instead of the back hip. So at landing, boom. At landing, my shoulders are here simply because where my center of gravity was, instead of it being over the back hip, I shifted it to over the belly button or over the front hip kind of thought. So if you're doing like a rocker drill, instead of it being so backside driven as you unload and your weight's over the back hip, or your pelvis is a bowl, instead of the weight being over this part of the bowl, you have the weight over this part of the bowl. Instead of doing a rocker like this, maybe do the rocker like this. So your weight just stays stacked over kind of the front hip, but you're still getting into the back hip. You're still connecting to the back hip, hinging in it, and unloading out of it. You're just keeping your weight over that part of the pelvis so that as you unload, you're downhill versus getting caught over the back hip right there. So hopefully that makes sense. To me, that's the easiest way to think about it. It's like if you're standing here, you have a center of gravity, right? You're balanced here. If your center of mass is anywhere over the base of support, you're going to be able to not fall. So I can go all the way here. If I go any further, I'd fall. I can go all the way here. If I go any further, I'd fall. And so my base of support is basically like this is the range of the base of support. So anywhere within that, you're not going to fall. You're going to maintain your balance. Can we keep our balance a little bit more towards this part of the base of support? So if I'm on one foot, I basically have the outside of my foot back this way. That's that one extreme base of support, and the other side is the inside of the foot. So it's kind of the idea of as you ride forward, you're basically you're on that inside edge of your base of support. It's not falling, but it's kind of riding the inside edge of that base of support versus riding the outside edge of the base of support back here. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you can see the drastic difference between staying over the back hip and staying over the front hip as you unload. But to me, that's a very easy change, at least in my body to feel. It's just a subtle postural shift that should clean up everything else up the chain.